Welcome to the Cincy Postcast. I'm your host, Kevin Wallace, and before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you about our friends over at Streetside Brewery. For my money, the best local brewery here in Cincinnati. Such good people, and they have been friends of the Postcast for a while now. If you have not been to their brewery tap room over in Columbia, Tusculum, you are way missing out. But they have a ton of events that makes going out to Streetside so much fun. And I gotta tell you about 420 Saturday, this Saturday coming up. It is a jam-packed day for Streetside. You got Sabra releasing on 420. They had variants on their New England IPA, mixed 4-packs, and a whole bunch of other goodies. You also have FA Cup semifinal watch party happening, as well as live music later that night with Jonathan Cody White. This is a ton of cool stuff happening over at Streetside. You gotta check them out. You can go to 4003 Eastern Avenue, or of course, pick them up at the fridge of wherever you're buying your next beer. Again, a huge thank you to Streetside for sponsoring the Postcast. And on today's episode, well, we try our best to not have to talk about the second loss in a row for FC Cincinnati, but we do. It's not, weirdly, as negative as you might think. There's a lot of positive thinking happening here. What changes could be made? What is happening? Why is this team struggling? Why do things not quite look quite right? Then in part two, we're touching on MLS generally, the little AFC Wrexham mixed in there. And then finally, we wrap it all up with listener questions. And that's going to be your Postcast. Joining me to talk about all of that and more, I'm joined by my good friend and yours, the Chief. Chief, how are we feeling tonight?
It's a glorious day in Cincinnati, Ohio. The sun was finally shining this weekend. I thought that was never going to happen after the amount of rain we've been having. I don't know. Wish circumstances were better on this Monday morning in terms of giving us an episode. I've noticed that not all 12 of our listeners tend to download when we're coming off a loss. So
I can quantify exactly how many bandwagoners there are. You know,
that's absolutely true.
Very easy.
Anyone can listen to the podcast after a win. It takes a real fan to listen to the podcast after a loss.
That is so true. I'll be honest with you. This was a tough one to choose to go back and watch.
Did you go back and watch? Because I have it on good authority, Kevin, that you, in fact, were attending a different sort of sporting match on Saturday night.
I was. I dipped my toes for the first time ever to the world of professional wrestling. I went to AEW Collision.
Yes.
I think that's how I expressed that. It did feel like there were 4 other TV shows taping that night as well.
That's the true experience.
Okay, good.
It's not a real experience until they've taped one show before the event and one show after the event to really cement that you have no idea what's going on.
Exactly. It was really funny watching them swap out the cards on the table and the ring skirt and everything.
Yeah.
Obviously,
how was it? Tell me about it.
Okay, so I think you go in, and I've seen it on TV. I know enough to get by. You know, I would know where to click on Wikipedia to get from one spot to another, I think. But I haven't watched anything recently, and by recently, I mean when I was 10, right? So I'm not familiar with the characters back then.
We're saying here.
But what I was most impressed with was how physical it is in person. Just how impressive it is as an actual sporting event. Yes, blah, 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 scripted, sure. The work that is being put in is incredible. I was just blown away by that. I was very, very impressed. I wasn't prepared to be impressed. In fact, I was kind of thinking that in person, it might feel a little more exposed. It might be able to hear, the calling out of the spots or whatever else. And yeah, there's a little bit of that. But man, I was just super impressed. In particular, and you're going to have to help me with the name, the Swiss Superman, Claudio
Castagnaro, yeah. Sorry.
I'm going to go down and say most impressive physical specimen I saw on the night. That dude is incredible.
Yeah. He was unbelievable when he wrestled as Cesaro in WWE. And he was a dude where he was so impressive when he fought that there was a an organic movement by the fans to say, why in God's name isn't he doing more stuff? Like the fans were printing out signs, Cesaro section, because they were just, why are we watching people that aren't nearly as physically impressive as this guy win titles? This is absurd. He was so good in WWF or WWE. He was part of a tag team for a while with Sheamus called The Bar, and they were just so much fun to watch. It's like two random Europeans that got paired together and just were hosses, just wrecking people for titles.
Man, it was so much fun. I mean, huge props to my cousin for dragging me out on this one, and I had way more fun than I thought I would. So I was trying to keep tabs on the game, but I didn't get to watch a lot, or dare I say any, during the actual game.
You were seeing an actual exciting sporting event, like in front of you.
Look,
where the outcome felt less predetermined, honestly.
I tweeted out a picture. It was of that tag team match. Everybody is writhing in pain on the ground in the ring, all four of them, and the ref standing over them. I tweeted out, a real ref show here. No engagement. I thought that was hilarious.
So I mentioned to Mrs. Chief that you were doing this, that you were at professional wrestling, as we ventured out on the west side because we were dog sitting. So we were up at West Side Brewing, official FCC pub partner, if you will. And her thought was, why don't soccer players train with professional wrestling coaches to get better at selling bumps? Like, there are so many unimpressive attempts to draw contact and fake contact. Why not learn how to really sell an injury from people who are experts in this? Can you imagine if Red Bulls took their academy talent down to the WWE Performance Center down in Orlando in the preseason and put them in the ring and taught them how to bump? They would be unbeatable.
Honestly, if you told me they do that, I'd believe you. Like,
I absolutely would too.
They're the one team that's like weirdly good at this. And yeah, I'm all in. I'm all in on this idea. Like, there's something to be gained here from other sports.
I want FC Cincinnati to do this. The greater Cincinnati area, hotbed of professional wrestling talent. We have Ohio Valley Wrestling in the general area. There are any number of top level wrestlers that have come from the area. John Moxley, former WWE champion, former AEW champion. Angelo Dawkins, former WWE tag champion, still wrestling in WWE. There have been a number over the years of great local talent that never really made it big beyond just, the region. But there are people around here that could coach this team on how to flop and how to take falls. And if you're not scoring goals, you may as well try to, win a few from the penalty spot from a couple well-placed dives, right?
I mean, if nothing else, like, there is this idea that if you feel contact in the box as a striker, right? Like, this is the typical scenario. You feel the contact in the box, and you do feel like that if it had just been a hint harder, it's an instant penalty, or that you need to fall down on this contact in order to get the call. Like, there is a degree of, like, playing through the foul ultimately negates the advantage that you are owed for the foul that for a fact happened. So just, like, being able to, I'm not going to say embellish, I'm going to say highlight the contact that you did receive, I think would be a very useful skill for a handful of players at least, but every player to learn.
And not only that, too, we're bad at this. We've said we're bad at this. We've said that this is a missing piece to FC Cincinnati's game, that our strikers try to fight through too much contact. They don't go down easily enough. That was a problem with Brandon Vasquez last year. Cross-training. People in UFC, they don't just train in one discipline, they cross-train. We need to find the time. How much more effective would Lucho Acosta be if he had the ability to really sell a bump? If he really understood the ability to take a flat back bump on the grass, really start selling the ankle, start selling the leg. And then the real thing is when you get into the psychology, if you sell the injury even as the game goes along. So when you see the ref make eye contact with you, you start to sell a little bit to let them know you were really got that last time. So when the next foul happens, oh my God, that's a card. They're targeting an injured man right there.
I'm 100% on this. This does make me think two things coming out of this. One, I think all soccer substitutions should have to work via tag team rules, which is
hold
you
the
have
tag rope and then reach in to tag in.
Yes,
and
you
he
have
has to make
tag.
He has to make it over to tag to you. I love this.
So if you are injured, I need you crawling over to your guy, right? So that's one of them. The other thought I had, this is a slightly different thought, which is, there is a referee. There's the ring. I am not knowledgeable enough. It was funny to me trying to piece together what I think the rules of the wrestling is that is then clearly being violated or disregarded, or the ref is being distracted,
manipulated. Yeah,
there's clearly you're allowed to choke somebody, but only for a certain number of seconds. I don't know what that rule is.
You get a 5 count on the choking.
Good.
Now, having said this, AEW is notorious among wrestling fans for playing fast and loose with the rules.
Okay.
And you'll get a bunch of wrestling hardos on Reddit and online getting really mad that it breaks the immersion when there appears to be no rules. So in normal pro wrestling rules, you get a 10 count if you're on a tag team to where the two of you can both be in the ring together.
Right.
In AEW, they say it's 20, but really it's just as long as you're doing cool stuff, we're not going to kick you out unless the storyline requires us to kick you out.
I appreciate the immersion breaking, because one of the fights I did see was a woman that I suppose is from the 1930s.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. That's hard to square immersion wise with what I'm watching.
The other thing, it's kind of like somebody asks how fast does the Starship Enterprise move? It moves at the speed of plot. However fast it needs to move, or however slowly it needs to move, it moves to create the drama. Much like in pro wrestling, the rules are enforced at the speed of plot. Whatever we need to do in order to make the match or make the storyline make sense, that's what we do. This is so much more fun than the match. Can we just start a wrestling podcast? I would love to do that. Let's start a wrestling podcast where you just watch wrestling and just explain from someone that doesn't understand what's going on, what the bit is.
I think that would actually be really funny to have the newbie's perspective. I've thought about, there's a couple of different versions of that podcast, different topics or whatever, but I think it would ultimately always fail in a funny roundabout sense. Obviously, people would hopefully latch onto the host personality and follow them, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But the
not
newbie
us,
can't
no,
be but the newbie can't be the newbie forever. Eventually, hopefully they learn shit, and a year in, they get it. And so
then stop. Then you just, at that point, you're just doing a wrestling podcast. And it's probably a lot less fun.
Yeah, there's a cooking YouTube show. I think it's called Sorted, that my wife really likes. And the idea is that there's 3 just regular dudes and 2 professional chefs, and they always do competitions and stuff. And it's very funny. But it's if we're doing it for 7 years, and they put out twice weekly, 3 times a week content, it's surely the normal guys are pretty good at cooking.
Yeah, they figured this out by now. This is now just a bit. All right, so you have to make. All right, so let's do this then. FC Cincinnati roster. You have to pick one person who is a heavyweight champ, or just a world champ. I don't want to say heavyweight because nobody on our team is going to factor in for fee. Yeah. So a world champ, a mid card champ, and you have to make a tag team, a tag team champ.
Okay, so I think your overall champion has to be, this is a shame because he worked great elsewhere, Miazga. Miazga is like your poster boy.
He's a heel. He's the heel champion.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so all right, I'm going to change the name. I'm going to change the game.
Please,
then.
I like this. Then.
All right, I need a heel champ.
Okay.
I need a babyface champ. I need a mid-card champ. And I need a tag team champs.
This is much easier because then obviously Haglund is your babyface champion. I think.
No.
Who do you
wrong
go
on this one. All right, so I think we're both in agreement that Matt Miazga is your heel champ, right?
He's too good to not be winning. Yes.
All right. Your babyface champ is Obina Wobodo.
Oh, I see where you're going.
The technical wrestler. He's a technician. Like he is incredible at his technique. I would hear arguments in the space for Miles Robinson, too. I think Miles Robinson, all-American hero, U.S. men's national team guy, still playing in the U.S. He could have a little bit of a Hulk Hogan, eat your vitamins, say your prayers kind of vibe to him right there.
I'd say I wanted to make Robinson and Miazga a tag team, but I don't think that actually works.
That doesn't work. I don't think that works at all.
I like that. I think Yuya Kubo should be
the heel champ. How dare you?
I mean, not a heel, although according to the referees.
According to the referees union, yeah. You're going to have him as your mid-card champ then, Yuya Kubo?
That's right, need him.
You need him there. In
the AEW, new tradition, he's a low knee from Japan, so this works out great.
Well, that works well. He's former New Japan Pro Wrestling champion, IWGP. Maybe he was a young boy. He did play for Young Boys, right?
Oh my God!
He was a young boy at one point. Oh my God, this works perfectly. He was a young boy in New Japan in this alternate timeline.
Okay, this works.
All right, so my mid-card champion, I'm going to say, see, here's the problem. This was a Junior Moreno spot locked on when he was on this roster right here.
Yeah.
I am going to say my mid-card champion is Roman Celentano.
Okay.
All-American, younger, coming up through the ranks. He's still a little baby-faced. You can tell that he's going to eventually possibly turn into the grizzled young veteran. But who's your tag team?
Ooh, tag team. This is a tricky one. Like, it'd be really funny for it to be like Lucho and Luca. Because they could do I know it's not Mexico, but they could do like a luchador thing, especially with Lucha's nickname. Yeah. But there's something funny about the two tiniest guys. Right. They'd be fun though. They feel like they would be flying on the ropes and stuff. They're
definitely a high flying act. They're a little bit of a top flight or Team Lucho.
Yeah, it could be fun.
They would have ruled in Lucha Underground back in the day. Great promotion. If you're not familiar with that, okay, that's a wrestling that you would enjoy. So it was a wrestling promotion where they tried to make it with Hollywood production values when they did all of the backstage stuff.
Okay.
So it had an ongoing storyline. Just about everyone that is famous now in pro wrestling, or not famous now, but everyone that was in Lucha Underground wearing masks is wrestling now, actually as regular people. So,
okay. So
yeah, it's really cool.
Torta Loca in Northern Kentucky absolutely has this on during their lunch hours. So I've definitely seen it at lunch. So this is good. Who's your tag team? I
feel like you got to get Dotto in as a tag team guy.
Okay.
I don't know who he tags with, though.
Dotto and Buka? Just mix it up a little bit?
Ooh, I like that. Buka is the strongest member of the team. You got to have him in there somewhere.
It feels important. He benches,
a lot.
Yeah, at least 4 Obies. So that's good.
Dotto and Buka. That's an interesting. That would be a tag team pairing right there. That's an odd one. That's just two guys you're throwing together because creative doesn't have anything for them right now.
Yeah, but
What about Ian Murphy and Kip Keller? The young American center backs.
Ooh, I like that. Santos and Baird. Second Chance Saloon.
Jobbers. Oh, Jesus. It's funny. Well, we know none of them are going to win or score, so they're great on defense. The offense leaves a little something to be desired.
They fill up time, you need some chunks of time taken up, they got you covered.
Right, they got you for 2 TV segments. No worries. They'll take you through the commercial break.
Yeah, Santos always being hurt feels so
What about Evan Loro and Alec Kahn as the backup goalkeepers tag team?
I thought about them
That'd be fun.
The vibes are kind of perfect too, because they've got different personalities, so they're coming from the same, background. I like it. And
like the storyline is that like Alec is really like type A, like he wants to win, and Evan is just, I'm having a good time being here, man. We're all good.
You know what tag team 100% would never work at all, but could be fun to put on television one time?
Oh, Lucho and Boop?
Yeah.
That's a classic WWE move. It's a can they coexist move.
Right.
We put together these two people that hate one another, and they either somehow win the tag titles, or it leads to them feuding with one another when they don't win the tag titles.
I'm just imagining like about halfway through the match, they just start fighting each other so much that the other team leaves. It just evolves.
It would be one of those classic things on TV where Boop is in the ring, he's getting the shit beat out of him, and he's like crawling over to make the tag, and Lucho's got the tag rope with his arm there, and then as he goes to make the tag, Lucho pulls his arm back and then walks to the back to let him get the absolute piss beat out of him.
Leaves him. That's exactly how it would go.
Or Lucho's getting the piss beat out of him, and he reaches over to tag to Boop, but it turns out that he isn't holding the tag rope, so the tag is waved off, which is the tag version of being offside, I think, right?
Yes, that's what happened. Barriel's watching, just shaking his head, disappointed at everything.
Can't stand it. Well, he's got plenty of time to watch TV since he's not actually playing soccer.
He needs a hobby, because it's definitely not playing soccer. You're right. Oh, man. Do we have to talk about this?
Will be fun to see how much of that makes it into the episode.
I can't wait to see either.
Do we have to talk about this game? I guess we could not.
In a weird way.
It would be a bold move for an FC Cincinnati soccer podcast. It'd be like, segment 1, pro wrestling. Segment 2, MLS. Segment 3, your questions.
Did a game happen? It's unclear.
Maybe.
Montreal wins 2-1. Let's talk about it. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. We don't need to focus too much on it. Especially after a loss. I'm more interested in meta narratives, but FCC loses 2-1. Goals by Martinez, of course, and Lassiter for Montreal. Yuya Kubo snuck one in
for the second straight game. There. The only goal from FC Cincinnati comes from the player that we all thought was a bad contract and thought would never leave.
Mm-hmm. I want to say you and I were advocating for buying him out this past offseason, or last year at least.
I'm really fascinated to see how much he's making this year. Like, I am desperately curious as to how much we are paying quite literally the only goal-scoring threat on this team.
I mean, at this point, it's probably too low.
Yeah. All right, so we come into this game with the lineup. We're in our usual 3-5-3, or 5-3-2, I guess would be what we are usually.
It really depends on how you want to explain it. FOTMob has it a little different. I'm not sure if
FOTMob usually has this as a 3-4-2-1 in this game, but it's the same formation as always. It's just, where do you think Yakubo belongs on this team? Is he a striker or is he a midfielder on this? But the lineup is Ali Khan in goal. Your back line is Ian Murphy, Matt Miazga, and Miles Robinson. Luca Oriano and DeAndre Yedlin on the wings as the wingbacks. Pavel Buka and Obino Wobodo in the midfield, along with maybe Yuya Kubo. I don't know. Lucho Acosta in the midfield as well. They have Aaron Bupenza as the sole striker. I would suggest that Yuya Kubo was a striker pair with Aaron Bupenza in this game.
Yes.
So, Kevin, you see this lineup. That's our top line, back line.
Yep.
This is the best 11 this team can put out, I think. Right now,
especially right now with the situation at striker,
other than Celentano being out, obviously,
in the situation with Roman, Yuya Kubo is our best. He's the hottest striker at the moment. He's the best number 2 we have, based on the evidence that we have available to us so far this season. That this was, outside of goalkeeper, our best possible lineup. on the field. I did quickly try to look it up because, I always pull up FOTMOB for this. FCC's graphic that they put out, which I'm choosing to believe is more accurate, does have Kubo up top alongside Bupenza.
With a 5-3-2 then as our formation.
Yeah. I thought it was strong. I was excited. I tweeted from the post that this is a hell of a lineup. Like, this is great.
So here's my question to you. Let's start off with this. What does it say right now? And I'll give credit to this observation to Joseph Mamey in the Discord.
Yes.
What does it say right now that Pat Noonan has signed 3 strikers so far?
Chris Albright.
Chris Albright. Chris Albright. Chris Albright has signed 3 strikers. He signed Aaron Bupenza, Sergio Santos, and Corey Baird. And 2 of those have been relegated to all just straight out bench players in favor of Yuya Kubo when he is trying to spark the offense. What do we make of this?
It brings to mind an old narrative for the FC, which is that all of the attacking talent on this team was brought in by Jared Nijkamp, and everything else was acquired by Chris Albright. And with the departure of Brenner and the eventual departure of Vasquez, that was supposed to change this year. And yet, Yuya Kubo, not initially brought in by Chris Albright, he has re-signed him, which if you want to call him an Albright signing, whatever, but he was not identified as an attacking talent to help this team by Chris Albright. He was already here. We're almost back where we started, where the most goal dangerous folks are Yuya Kubo and Lucho Acosta. And that's not, it doesn't fill me with joy. It doesn't spark joy, I think, is the Marie Kondo expression. It's not great. And I mean, so that's absolutely the negative look on it. I think the positive spin, if I may, because I'm going to try to be the optimist to your pessimist here on this. A little bit.
I am not a pessimist. I want to make that very clear.
Sure.
Go ahead. But go ahead, please.
But I think the optimistic view is you see that Baird and Santos are struggling, and that you recognize that Yuya Kubo can do the job better in plugging them in. There isn't a need to he doesn't feel compelled or forced to start Santos or Baird because they're being paid X amount or because they were brought in, that they need Kubo on the bench or they need Kubo in midfield, that he is recognized as being the best for this role and going there. There's also the idea that we still haven't actually signed a starter alongside Bupenza, and that of the battle of the backups, Kubo has won, but that may very well change month to month as we go. I don't know. What's your thought on this?
I don't know what to think. I don't know what to make of it. Like, on one hand, I'm thrilled that Yuya Kubo is scoring goals.
Yes, that's a positive thing.
That's a positive thing. And my thought last night was, where the hell would this team be right now if Yuya Kubo had decided to go back over to Europe or back to Japan? He was sort of we're going to see if he'll take less money to stay situation. To a certain extent, they lucked out with this. He was not the plan here. So it's working, but this was absolutely not the plan by Albright. And so I'm sort of wondering, like, what did he think things were going to work out with? Was there a thought that Corey Baird was going to be better than he has been right now? And the other thing too is that, like, look, I know the narrative is out there that Corey Baird was brought in as the Badji replacement. They don't have the budget to sign a starting striker. They don't. Yeah. What you are counting on right now is you are counting on a U22 player coming in and filling in with starting striker minutes. And if that happens, if they bring in a U22 striker that is a starting level player at MLS who hits the ground running and is scoring goals and filling a need on this team, I mean, that's betting on the wildest of inside straights. That doesn't happen often in this league. We've said it before on this podcast. U22 signings are lottery tickets. The idea that was the plan was, we need to get a U22 starter at striker. What? I don't believe that.
Like, I'm trying to think of like the NFL equivalent, and I think I've settled on, please, by all means, critique this or offer your own idea. I think it's like a 3rd round draft pick. It's like, yeah, it could pan out. Like, that'd be good. But like with striker, you're almost like, we'll take a quarterback in the 3rd round, and that'll save our franchise. You're like, whoa, what are you doing?
I almost think the best equivalent, and if you're old enough, you'll understand this reference, and that's that it used to be legal to draft high school kids into the NBA. Famously, that's how LeBron James came into the league.
Yep.
All right. So for every LeBron James or Kobe Bryant that came directly from high school into the NBA, there were like 15 Kwame Browns.
Yeah.
Or dudes you ain't never even heard of who couldn't play because the transition to being an 18-year-old to playing against grown men was really, really hard. And that's sort of what you're hoping on. And I mean, do we... Based on the returns so far, do we think Albright's got that in him to find this U22?
I mean, that's the thing, right? Like,
I hope so. I really do, but
it's I don't know what it is, and maybe just attacking talent is harder to scout, or it's inherently more expensive because scoring goals wins games, and so you're competing
famously.
Yeah, you're competing with more people. Like a savvy defensive midfielder, can go undetected for a while, but the kid banging in 30 goals a year in Brazil gets on a lot of people's radars pretty quickly. I don't know what it is though. Like, Orishano seems fine, but maybe a touch in over his head. Like, Buka doesn't seem goal dangerous. Like, it's not clear, like, where this is supposed to go. Yeah.
So I generated some controversy from this tweet.
This tweet was controversial. I like it.
I mean, it's only controversial in that there were some people that really got mad about it. The overwhelming majority of people liked it. And, I choose to believe likes are indicative of agreement. When you click like, that means you agree with what I'm saying. And I will accept no substitutes on that. I said this last night, and I want to get your take on this because many people have suggested that this is just me working through being angry during a loss. And to a certain extent, I tweet through the feelings. We all know this. We all do this. Everyone is guilty of this. Don't act like you're better than me. But I don't know that I disagree with it when I woke up this morning. So I said this. Biggest problem right now is that this team is worse at every position replaced than they were a year ago. And to those positions, I said, Barreal was a better player than Luka is. Moreno was a better player than Buka is. Brenner was a better player than Boop is. Vasquez was a better player than Baird is. Arias was a better player than Yedlin is. And Mosquera was a better player than Robinson is. And I said, this is the only one that's close because I genuinely believe that. I think that the drop off, if there is a drop off between Robinson, from Mosquera to Robinson, it's very, very negligible.
Yeah.
The only reason I would say that I would give the edge to Mosquera, quite honestly, is that he is signed by a Premier League team and playing in La Liga currently, and Miles Robinson is not. I think Miles Robinson has the talent to do that, but if you're going man for man, I would probably give the edge in talent a little bit to Yerson Mosquera, but in terms of on field, that's the only one that's close. And I would hear your argument that they are better with Miles Robinson than Yerson Mosquera, but everybody else, I don't know. Am I off base in this idea that I just don't think these replacements have played well?
Okay.
To at least to the level that we expected them to play when we slotted them in and when we were excited in the preseason.
Yeah. So if I were to go through these one by one to critique the tweet, as it were.
Please.
Mosquera Robinson, I say is a push. But that's
I agree with
that's
that.
a good thing.
I think it's close.
That's a good thing. Yeah. Vasquez better than Baird? I say generally yes, but didn't Vasquez only score like 4 or 7 times in MLS? Like, there's not a lot of league goals from Vasquez last year, so it's not. I'm not desperate for him.
But here's the deal, though, is that if this whole idea of the way we replaced players was we were looking to stay with the same formation, do what it was that we did last year, and we were looking for like replacements.
Yeah.
And the idea being that this set of skills works in MLS and works with what Pat Noonan wants to do.
Yeah.
I do not understand fundamentally. I will continue to not understand why we brought in a striker that isn't a hold-up striker to replace Brandon Vasquez.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And just when you say Brandon Vasquez didn't, the goal contributions, we said it all last year. He is elite at hold-up play, at understanding movement, at moving to create space for other people to move around. He draws defenders places that opens up runs for other people. Corey Barrett isn't doing that.
Yeah.
Corey Barrett is not only not scoring goals, but he can't do those things Vasquez was doing as well. It still feels very weird to me that we brought Baird in instead of another target man, any target man to make this offense run.
It's also funny too, thinking, about how the roster construction ended up, that we would lose Vasquez and Badji for Baird when you could have just kept Badji. I give some grace to Albright in this regard, in that we don't know if Badji wanted to go somewhere and get minutes. It's fair. Or if they saw things in training and they have all the performance data, if they saw him slowing down and expected him to be much worse this year. Fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know that. Just that the idea that we entered into the season with no one on the roster that had the skill set that, if we're trying to run 2023 back, which it feels like we were trying to do with these signings, that we didn't get that skill set. Yeah. So that's where I'm going to say that I think that the gap is a lot bigger between Vasquez and Baird than it even looks on paper. Yeah.
I think the Brenner Bupenza one is funny because in the abstract, I agree with you, except for last year, Brenner didn't really play for this team.
I openly admit that's a reach. We can talk about Bupenza as we go along. Or let's talk about him now.
Okay.
All right. So why? What the hell? What's going on here?
What's going on? I genuinely think this is a chemistry thing with him and Lucho. It is not just a Lucho doesn't like him or doesn't get along with him. And last time we started floating these narratives, they both got assists for each other and then hugged on the field. So if we could just, create that moment again, that'd be cool. It seems very obvious that they don't want to pass the ball to each other or play nice to each other. There was a moment last night in the game where there's a break on a counter and Lucho and Bupenza are running on top of each other. They cannot get out of each other's way because they both feel entitled to the ball, and it just doesn't pan out. There's a great moment where they have a 2-on-1 at the edge of the box. I think this is the moment that leads to one of the goals for Montreal. But Bupenza, instead of passing it to Lucho, where they would have a 2v1 to go into the box, he does the dumbest thing. This is the worst half-hearted cross in an attempt to, I guess, get it to Yuya Kubo in the box. It's awful. They will not play nice to each other right now. I don't know why. And because of that, Bupenza and the other strikers are just not getting enough opportunities. And so I truly believe he is one of the most efficient strikers in the league. He's one of the most efficient strikers we've ever seen. But still, he's
not scoring goals.
He's being starved of opportunities.
He's also, in my mind, he's starving himself of opportunities.
Yeah.
Because he's offside so damn much.
There is that.
If you're Lucho and you have a split-second decision of, do I get this ball to Bupenza? At some point in the back of your mind, you have to think he's probably off.
Yeah.
That's why he's open, is he's off. I can't trust him that if I pass this ball to him, it isn't a turnover. And then, we lose possession and then we have no chance at scoring a goal.
Yeah.
At a certain point, doesn't that have to weigh on you as a player, that every time it seems like you try to get the ball to this guy, he's put a foot wrong and he's not timing his run correctly?
It must. And what's funny is I'm sure Bupenza feels the same way. about Lucho, that I'm going to pass the ball to him and it will die with him. It's not going anywhere else. Lucho's going to go dribble into 14 defenders and lose the ball. So why should I pass it to him? I'm going to try to find something else to do with this. It's so weird. Yeah, I was looking at Bupenza's stats last night. 28 touches, 1-for-1 shot accuracy. Like that's my man's stat line right there. He just, every shot he takes is on target typically. So he's batting right about 50% on shots on target for the season. But yeah, he's elite at MLS in shots on target. But yeah, 28 touches. Oh my God. We're getting into the, thousands of dollars per touch, part of his contract. And it's not good.
Here's a stat that's wild to me.
Yeah.
And I understand. Look, I know people want to say it's early in the year. It's not. We're hitting, this is the quarter post of the season. All right. So is it late? No, but it isn't early either. Mm-hmm. We are firmly into the middle part of the season now. You can get stats on this at MLS soccer, Major League Soccer.com. Offsides for the year. FC Cincinnati has 3 players in the top 10 of most flagged offsides or offside.
Wow.
Lucho Acosta has been flagged 7 times. Corey Baird has been flagged 7 times. Corey Baird has been flagged 7 times and only 6 matches started. Aaron Bupenza has been flagged offside 7 times and only 5 matches started. 3 of the top 10 most offside players are FC Cincinnati's attacking trio, basically.
That's
wild.
That's hilarious. Is there are there any other teams that appear to be like clustered like that? Is this like all the high flying attacks up here, or is anybody else up there with us?
I mean, it's a regular distribution of the people that you would expect to be up there. Like,
okay,
damn,
that's killer.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to. I don't know what to make of that, other than the fact that confirms to me the eyeball test that this team is incredibly out of sync on offense. That the passes don't happen at the right time, the runs aren't timed at the right time, and the ball just isn't moving at the right time. So they can't keep possession, they can't build to attacks. And the other thing too is that because they lose possession so damn easily, they don't ever get time to set up their high press.
Yeah.
It would be one thing if they were, losing the ball out of bounds to throw-ins where you can set a high press up, but they're losing the ball in play in the middle of the field, and then they're just getting immediately countered on these games.
Yeah. Ugh.
I don't know. They need to... There's no solution for the Bupenza situation either, because they're not going to eat his contract on a buyout.
No.
And his value has to be tanking right now with the way he's playing. And then when you add in the off-field stuff that's gone on over the last 6 months or so,
yeah,
I can't believe they'd get close to their money back for him if they tried to sell him this summer.
I mean, maybe he still has some value in the Middle East. Like he tore up Qatar and Saudi Arabia. However, the way he left Qatar was not great.
Famously, parts of the world also don't love the fact that you're producing your own, home videos.
Yeah, well, there's that. Yeah, there's that. Yeah, maybe somebody. We seem to have a half decent relationship with Turkish clubs. He won the Golden Boot there a couple of seasons ago. That could be interesting. Yeah, there's somebody in the Discord pointed this out too, which is like if Acosta and him aren't going to get along, you replace Bupenza. You're not getting rid of Acosta. It's a shame though that they can't. I don't know.
But it's not working with anyone in Acosta right now. That's the other thing too that is a really uncomfortable part of this to talk about.
Yeah.
Is that it's not working with Acosta and Oriano. It's not working with Acosta and Barrett. It's not working with Acosta and Bupenza. Who is Acosta playing well with right now?
Kubo. Genuinely, they actually do play pretty well together.
Yeah.
Kubo for his goal did, what you're begging for, the run across the offside line, break with the pass, shoot, score. Like it was really nice.
Yeah, it's clinical.
We need
it's
to
the kind
see,
of goal we don't score those goals anymore.
Yeah, we need to see a lot more of it. Look, I love Acosta. I'll defend him he's my guy. To my dying breath.
He's our hero.
FCC is ripe for a Ewing theory experiment, though.
What, to put him on the bench and let him come in at the 50th minute? That's honestly the best we've looked, is when he comes in fresh at the end of a game.
So I don't even know if this actually ended up happening in real life, but the Ewing theory was that when the Knicks lost Patrick Ewing for a season, or maybe it was even the season after he left, they had one of their most successful seasons ever because they didn't feel like the entire team had to run through him, and that everybody else was like a really good role player all around the team, and that like once the pressure was off of having to play with Patrick Ewing, like the team was way more relaxed, everybody knew their spots, and they were able to do it. Like this is still a very talented team on paper, and even by watching the game, which is what kills me, of just like it just isn't working, because you can't really highlight a key moment where you're like, Pavel Bucha is absolutely robbing this team of opportunities by doing this. You can't do that. Like, it's really hard to pinpoint, like, this person is throwing the game away. That's not to say everybody is playing flawlessly. Absolutely not. Everybody makes mistakes. This is MLS. If they were flawless, they wouldn't be playing in this league. But it's hard to point out, like, consistent patterns with players of, like, oh, they're really bad at this thing, and that's why we're struggling. Yeah.
Can I ask this question then? So the other part of this tweet that got takes, I'll say.
I forgot we were still working through this tweet.
No, it's all right. No, it's Bupenza's we're talking about.
Yeah.
So the other one is Luca Oriano.
Yeah.
That I feel like everyone wants to love him because he's a dribbly boy. Mm-hmm. You can see that there are some skills there.
Yeah.
But I do wonder a little bit with Oriano. Are we only saying he's good because we were told he's good? And now, like, we've convinced ourselves, no, you don't understand. He's good. I've heard it from many people are saying, because I don't know. There's a weird thing going on, and I'm trying to figure it out, in that, so last year, we were incredibly left-hand sided as a team. This team wanted to play up the left-hand side through Barreal and Lucho. And it worked, because Barreal was an incredibly talented player. He was an MLS best 11 player.
Yep.
He's made some terrible career decisions and gotten some terrible advice from his agent. That's neither here nor there. But when he was in MLS, he's a best 11 player.
Yes.
So, of course, you're going to play with the league MVP and your best 11 wingback, and you're going to run your offense through that.
Yes.
He's gone, and we're still trying to run our offense down the left-hand side. And I'm wondering why. Because in this game, if you look at the touches, and it was intuitive watching it, and then you look at the numbers and it backs it up.
Yeah.
Luca Oriano has double the number of touches of DeAndre Yedlin. And there are multiple times in this game where they probe forward with the ball, they do the pass back to the center backs, and Yedlin is dancing and screaming for a switch of play, and they just reload and attack down the left-hand side again. I understood that when Barreal was here, because that's where your talent is.
Yeah.
But we are so one-sided, and it just feels like it's out of force of habit that, like, oh, well, that's what we always do. We're a left-hand side team. When DeAndre Yedlin is an incredible attacking talent still. You brought him in specifically because he wants to be adventurous and get forward, and then we don't even try to play the ball over to him in these games.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. Why is that?
I don't understand it either. And the idea of bringing in Arias was in 2022, this team was also very left-hand dependent, and that the attack went through Barreal, and that he was one of our most important attackers, and was the unsung hero of the team. And then in 2023, that was the case, but the coaching staff and Albright knew that, understood that, and said, he can't be our only guy. We need an outlet on the right side as well. They bring in Arias. And when Arias was healthy and starting, he looked and played the part. It was great. They were still heavily dependent on Barreal, sure. I think it's a fair argument that he was the better player.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so absolutely. But the recognition was that can't just do it on Barrial's side. And Arias had some moments, man, like some incredible moments on this team. And it was always a threat, and it forced teams to respect it. And the idea was then, I guess, going into this year, that you would potentially have Orishano, please. I've got to train myself for that. So
I've given up on it. It's never going to happen.
It's fine. But I think the original plan was Orishano and Barrial would be on this team together, and so that they would both be attacking wing backs and that teams would have to respect both of them. That doesn't pan out, and the replacement ends up being DeAndre Yedlin. But again, there's this sort of conceit that the team has to be able to use both sides of the field. And it is insane that it is DeAndre Yedlin, of all players, that you're not utilizing. If that player is Ray Gaddis, it makes sense.
Or Alvis Powell. Yeah.
Even Alvis Powell, it makes a little less sense, but
they've turned DeAndre Yedlin into Alvis Powell.
Yeah.
They don't want to play down that side. Look, the idea here is that it's almost like, if you think of this as like an NFL team and you have wideouts.
Yes.
Barrial was a Jamar Chase.
Yes.
And all you need when you have an elite wideout is you need another guy just to take the catches when he's double covered.
Mm-hmm.
You just need someone else to make them think, okay, they're not going to throw every pass to Jamar Chase. They've got somebody else here. Well, Jamar's gone.
Yeah.
So, like, you can't keep force feeding the ball to his replacement just thinking that that's the guy. Like, it made sense that Arias was the change of pace to Barrial, but there's no reason that DeAndre Yedlin should be the change of pace to Luca Orishano, who's in his first season in MLS. Like, he's 24 years old.
Yeah.
Why it's like we're pretending that it's still Alvaro out there. That, like, if we just convince ourselves he's Alvaro, it's all going to work, but he's not.
And meanwhile, Yedlin, when he's not taking shots from outside the box for some unknown reason, he looks incredibly dangerous.
He's good. He's still good.
The backheel assist to save the Charlotte game, like, incredible stuff. I don't know why.
So here's another question, too.
Please.
How much of this team's struggle right now is that we remade the roster to try and replicate 2023 in 2022, but we really replicated the early 2022 roster when we're playing wingbacks and no one has played wingback before? That we brought in Orishano, who is not a wingback, but we're like, okay, he can do the Alvaro Barrial transition. And we brought in DeAndre Yedlin, who is also not a wingback by trade. He has many of the same skills that a wingback would have, but unless I miss my reading of his career, I don't think he's ever played wingback before. He's been a winger and he has been a right back, but I don't think he's ever been a straight out wingback before. And with the personnel we have on this team, would we be better off just letting them be wingers and changing formation and just giving up on the idea that we're going to teach them how to play a new position? Like we made Barrial into a wingback because we didn't know what to do with them. But we've got wingers on this team. We got two of them. Why are we trying to teach them a new position instead of changing the formation to, like, let them be who they are?
So keep in mind, Kubo and Baird have spent most of their career also on the wings. You got a lot of wingers on this team, my guy.
Yeah.
What are we doing? Like, it is weird. So if you'd indulge me for a moment, I think you've hit on this, which is that I think we have a talented team, and I think we have tried to force feed them, or force them into a formation that doesn't quite fit for them. So I truly believe a formation change would actually unlock more people's natural abilities and give us a better chance to win. Now, obviously, this may not be compatible with various philosophies or schemes that the coaching staff has spent all offseason trying to implement, but in my FIFA football manager brain, this is how I
which is clearly how we do things. We do things on the Xbox before we do them on the field.
Of course, this is how I would approach it. But I would move to a traditional classic back four, and I'd make Miles Robinson and Matt Miazga my two center backs. We saw it a couple of times. It looked a little dicey, but I'll be willing to run it out and actually see it through. Ian Murphy as my left back and DeAndre Yedlin as my right back. These guys would not be tasked with the wing back, plan. I don't need them running forward. I need them to defend the outside, because right now we're getting killed when teams sneak in behind our wingbacks on the break when they're pushed too far forward. Buka and Wobodo, I'm not changing their roles. I'm keeping them right smack dab in the middle of the park, and they're going to do their thing with Acosta in front of them, running around doing whatever the hell Acosta wants to do. I don't want to change the midfield too much there, but to your point, I want Luca Orishano as my left winger, and I want Yuya Kubo as my right winger. Their role is to kind of pick up the offensive, width that we're missing from the wingbacks, but tell them to pack it in as much as they can. We can concede the outside of the field in the midfield and our attacking third, their defensive third. Let the fullbacks take on the pressure there, but Orishano was a right winger in South America when he was playing. I still want to keep him on the left because I want him getting used to playing inverted, against his weak foot there, because I'm not giving up on the wingback experiment. I still need him doing this, but I'm going to keep him there. He can still do his attacking thing. He can play off with Acosta. And then I put Bupenza up top as the striker. I'm not giving him any defensive responsibilities. So on defense, Kubo and Orishano need to come back. They need to play defense. Acosta is going to harass folks wherever he can. That's fine. Wobodo and Buka are there. Suddenly, we got 8 guys playing defense. When you look at how our teams play now, we got 5 guys playing defense. We have our center backs, our 3, and Buka and Wobodo. Yedlin and Orishano are running up. We're playing with 2 strikers, and Acosta's not playing too terribly, intense defense. So I'm adding 3 extra defenders in the midfield when playing defense in this formation, and I'm letting Orishano cook, and I'm letting Kubo play in his natural position-ish. I think there's something here that could be gained. I'm not training these guys. I can't wait to hear how much of a moron I am for suggesting this. But based on the personnel we have and the weaknesses I'm seeing on this team, because I'll tell you, man, our midfield functionally doesn't exist when the other team is countering. It just doesn't exist. It's 2 passes and it's gone. They are covering 50, 60 yards of space in a blip. Obi can't play defense all by himself. It's just not working.
Is that the issue with Obi then? Because Obi has looked bad the last 2 games.
Yeah.
Because that's the other sort of meta narrative out of this game, is that Obi, it hasn't looked pretty. Is the injury worse than we're being led on, or is there something wrong there with this formation that he's used to doing? He was used to Moreno covering certain responsibilities and he's not getting that from Buka. Is it solely that Orishano and Yedlin are getting too far forward and he can't cover all this space? But I mean, beyond that too, his passing has looked worse. His balls, his interception rates have been worse.
Yeah.
He just doesn't seem like the same guy he was last year. I don't know. I'm trying to find an answer for this. The answer may well be too, they had a really short off season and these guys are still washed a little bit. I don't know. I am struggling for answers here, Kevin, as you can hear right now.
I'm right there with you. I'm probably chalking it up to injury. It's possible he's lost a step. It's really disappointing to think that. It's not to say he can't regain it, but we're just a couple of games back from his injury. Yeah, man, just seeing him get dispossessed regularly, it's just something you never see him do in the past. And also, put this pressure out there. He's a designated player, man. He can't be doing that. That's a Dado move. That's even a Buka move. You can't be giving up the ball right in front of your defense that easily. And the defense is all having to run on him. Buka's funny because Buka does really well with blocking shots and intercepting passes, but when it comes to winning, 1v1 battles, he's kind of garbage. And so it's just,
it hasn't been good.
Yeah, he's a funny spot. Not that Moreno was some defensive stalwart by any means. And Buka is about as accurate, maybe a little less than Moreno was on the passing front. But man,
Right.
it does feel like in general that's been a downgrade where I don't think it was supposed to be.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard too because the midfield's non-existent in that they can't possess the ball.
Yeah.
It feels like they get moved through very easily in terms of whereas last year they were better, it felt like, at breaking up possession and intercepting passes and stopping and winning the battle in the midfield. But just for long stretches of this game, they couldn't get and keep the ball. Mm-hmm. And I know that we've had this conversation a lot of, you don't need the ball to be successful, but it's one thing to concede possession. But if you're going to concede possession, you better be deadly on the counter. And this team just doesn't look put together on the counterattack even. Yeah. They lose the ball too quickly on that as well.
Yeah.
And again, it was another game where it was a lot of guys standing around. There wasn't a lot of movement off the ball. It was Lucho bringing the ball forward and 4 guys up front just sort of standing there. And I don't know what to make of that. There were times in this game where you could see a line of FC Cincinnati players, Orishano, Bupenza, Kubo, and Yedlin, 4 of them across, Acosta with the ball, and nobody moving.
Yeah.
And then Acosta tries to do something. He gets dispossessed, there's a turnover, and then all of a sudden it's a break, and 4 FC Cincinnati players are behind the ball, trying to run to catch back up.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it feels like a team, and it's one of those things, we were talking about this in the Discord, that when you watched the Monterey game, you felt like this was a team that had a lot of creativity and a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
And they just weren't, the finished product wasn't there. And so we were telling ourselves, and I remember we had this conversation on the podcast, it's okay, the finishing is going to happen. The finishing is going to happen. They're getting into dangerous positions. And for the last couple of weeks, they haven't even gotten into dangerous positions. Yeah. And so that's gone away. It's not a thing anymore of, oh, they're getting so close and not, getting their goals. Like in this game, they had what? They had Kubo's goal. There was another moment where Kubo got in front of goal in a really dangerous position and skied the ball right over the net.
Yeah.
But there weren't a lot of other really dangerous moments with this team. The set pieces were terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, like Lucho's set piece delivery has been awful. Just atrocious.
I'm sure he's just calling his own number. There's only so much that the coaching staff can do in the game when he's doing that, but he needs to not be the one taking the kicks. And I understand, like, he's the shortest guy, right? So you probably don't want him in the scrum, but like, surely somebody else on the team can put in the cross, can put in the ball. And Lucho is so dangerous as like the guy standing short for the short ball, because then the teams have to respect it. Now, if you've got Lucho like ready to receive a short corner, teams have to send 2 guys out to defend that.
Because he'll cook anyone 1v1.
And if they don't, great, pass it to Lucho every time. Now you've got a open Lucho with a teammate who is already ready to go, making a run into the box, having just taken the corner, right?
Yeah.
Or you pull 2 bodies out, and all of a sudden, Miazga, Hagelin, Murphy, Robinson's job is a lot easier to get ahead on the ball. It's just wild to me that they nullify the best player being in the play. In the trade-off is terrible set piece delivery.
Right. It'd be one thing if he was putting balls directly on the guys' heads from the corner, but he's not. Like, it's half of them don't even make it to the don't even beat the first guy.
No, or he bangs them long regularly in games where it's like, I guess he's just getting emotional about like chasing the games while he's going to hit it as hard as he can, and just like, what the hell, man? It doesn't make any sense.
Wouldn't you love to see what it looks like in practice? Like, it'd be hilarious if he's doing this in practice and it's just dime after dime after dime, and for some reason in the game state it just doesn't work.
I mean, if that's the case,
that has to be the case, right?
if it's not the case, I'm more worried than I was before.
Right?
If it's shit in practice and they're like, yeah, we'll figure it out later.
It's fine. It's fine. He's a gamer. He'll get this sorted when we actually get the games going on.
But we have like evidence that it's not working. So like, yeah, at a certain point, the performance in the game has to outweigh the performance in training, and you got to roll with that. Yeah.
All right. So let's take this tack then.
Yeah.
Because this game sucked. Are you as annoyed as I am that they gave another fucking goal up to the ghost of Joseph Martinez? Like, he's not good anymore. Like,
he's
it's
good
time
against
for him
us, man. Like, that's
just
the
us.
bet.
Yeah, him and Frankie Amaya, if they could play us the entire year, both those two guys would be in Europe right now.
Yeah.
Like, it would be, I don't get it. But it was goals on the break. Yeah, I don't think that it's another one where I don't think Roman being in net makes a difference on either one of those goals. No, they were.
The one thing I'll point out on the goals in particular, I think they're both Ian Murphy's fault. The first one in particular, I don't know. So Miazga does the most annoying defender thing ever, which is he sees a guy and he points at him instead of actually going to defend him. Right. I don't know. Maybe he's calling it out, but I also think that guy he points out, old Joseph Martinez, is Murphy's guy. It's not clear why Murphy is chasing the, I guess it's Lassiter, into the box. Letessier, I probably pronounced that wrong. It's not clear why he's chasing him because Miazga's in front of him and he sees that Miazga's got him. Whereas they both leave the guy open. It's super annoying on that one. And then teams are starting to figure out that with Orishano pushed so far up that the weak link in the defense tends to be Ian Murphy, and that's where they challenge, and that tends to be where we're giving up goals. Which probably doesn't lend a whole lot of credence to my make him the left back then argument, right. but
then he'd have three other people with him back there at the very least,
and he's in these positions anyway, so we're not actually losing or anything there. But yeah, the book is clearly out on he's.
Is there a thought that you swap Murphy and Robinson? And let Murphy play behind Yedlin, or behind Yedlin, and Robinson play behind Orishano, because Orishano is, we'll say very clearly, the weaker of the two wing backs tracking back. I don't know how that would work with footedness because I'm not up on who is foot dominant on both sides.
Yeah.
But just intuitively, if teams are targeting Ian Murphy, or not Ian Murphy, put him paired with the better of the two defenders on the side that you obviously don't want to play down anyway.
Yeah.
So like if this team's going to be so left-hand dependent, you want the left-handed wingback getting forward constantly, then put the better defender covering on the left-hand side.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like that's how I would do it. Ian Murphy is left-footed, which isn't the dream for making him the right-sided center back. You probably don't make him the central center back, although maybe you could get weird with it. But yeah, I agree with you. Like Orishano could benefit as a wing back for having a veteran presence back there that Miles Robinson would provide. So I agree with you on that front completely.
How mad do you think Grayson is going to be listening back to this, that we're actually talking tactics and roster construction? And like, this is our first serious attempt as a podcast to try and break down tactically what's wrong with this team, and he's not here for it.
I'm sure he would hate everything we're saying too.
My God, yeah. I can't wait to get the notes from him when this is done. What a moron I am about this.
It's always good. It's always good to have our editor chime in after the fact.
Right. The problem with all this is that, so they give up 2 goals, and I don't know if you weren't watching in real time, but watching in real time, I was like, they're not coming back from this. Yep. They don't have the firepower right now. I don't have the thought in my head that they're winning. So that second goal was just a backbreaker when that happens. And it happens so quickly after Kubo's goal, where I'm thinking to myself, they might be able to get something out of this bad boy right here. This is they're going to steal a point on the road in a game where they're not playing their best, and 4 minutes later, it's just come on.
Yeah. Ugh.
and it's on the break. It's Martinez with an assist. It's everything is bad with that. And then it's again, we've talked about this before. There's nobody on the bench that's going to go change a game state. You're talking about bringing Corey Baird and Sergio Santos in. And I've seen this movie. It's not going to make a difference. It's not going to move the needle. And part of the reason why I wanted to talk tactics and go through players and stuff like that to a certain extent is that it sounds like there's no help on the horizon coming. They just don't have the senior roster spots to sign anyone. We were talking about it earlier, that the U22 idea, the Kevin Kelsey thing seems dead. These are the guys. Albright has done what he's done, for better or worse. And so now it's sort of, this is now on Pat Noonan, that he's got to figure out a way to make this work. Absent some big transfers out at the summer window, there's not going to be a lot coming in there either. So I don't know. So I'll put it this way to you, Kev.
Please.
You've identified what you think the formation switch would be. Would you switch the formation, or is the message that we have just got to give Orishano and Yedlin and this team time to learn what they're doing? And it's not going to look pretty, but if you give them another 10, 12 matches plus Leagues Cup, that by the time we get to September, they'll hopefully be cooking. And in which case, that would be an argument for, you've just got to keep running this lineup out and hope that it starts to figure things out. What are you team pull the ripcord now and do something to get the results and try to see if it looks better now? Or is it that we've just got to eat vegetables for the next couple of months and hope that this team is peaking at the right time come the fall and the playoffs?
Yeah. So if I'm not pulling the ripcord after this match, the next match against Atlanta has to look different, or I'm doing it then. Like, there's no version of this where I let the team look this inept for like 3 months. That's a killer. You need to be doing something. This team has talent on its roster, and I believe that is what will happen. Like, I don't think Noonan and Albright are going to be, married so much to this system. And it's funny, I got to bring this up. Look at this promo for something after the fact that it's not clear anybody can actually listen to this. Brought this up on 700 WLW this morning with old Ken Brew, which is, if you look at 2022, that first game against Austin, this was after, 9 matches with Tyrone Marshall running the 4-4-2 diamond formation, where we lost every single match in 2021. 2022, they roll out the same thing. Ian Murphy was the left back. Again, not a lot of great points for my make him the left back argument, but they roll out the same 4-4-2 diamond formation against Austin, and they get trounced. It's
cooked
awful.
alive. It was bad.
Lucha writes a letter to the fans apologizing for the performance.
Yeah. That was our first match recap as a podcast, if I'm not mistaken.
That feels right. Yeah. And I think we were panicking a little bit.
Yeah.
But the coaching staff immediately changed the shape, and within 2 weeks we had what is now our system, the 3-5-2 with the wingbacks. Suddenly Barreal was able to fill in for Ronald Matarrita to bring up an FCC guy back in the day, and the rest is history. He becomes our guy. But my point is that if they were going to be married to a system, it was probably the one that they spent all league offseason implementing, the one that they forced the interim manager to implement, the one that they presumably recruited all of these players to play in, and then abandoned it within 2 weeks when it didn't look good. I think they're going to be willing to change things up.
Yeah. The other thing, too, is this is another thing that I think Grayson brought this up in the Discord, and it's worth remembering, too, is that it's all well and good to say, we want this team to be peaking at the right time during the MLS Cup playoffs.
Yeah.
Well, step number one is making the playoffs.
Yeah.
You've got to win enough games to make the playoffs. and the other thing, too, is that you don't want to be the team peaking as the 8th seed, where you're going to have to play all these games on the road. You're going to want to be if you want to have a realistic shot at winning MLS Cup, you're going to want to be peaking and be the 2 or the 3 seed at worst, where you're going to have a lot of home games until you get to the knockout stages. You're not going to want to have to go on the road for 2 of 3 in the new format. Is it the same format this year in the playoffs?
I think it is.
Paid attention.
Yeah.
So you're not going to want to be you're not going to be in a position where you need to win a road game in that first round robin thing that they do, or that first best of 3 series. So these games don't matter in terms of Supporters Shield is not the goal, but you got to stay within striking distance of a top spot in the playoffs if you want to have a realistic shot of winning the cup. Yeah. So I don't see them either punting on long stretches of the season just to teach Orishano how to be a wingback and keep trying to pound a square peg into a round hole.
Yeah. I agree with that. So, I mean, to that point, again, just to be forever the optimist on the podcast here, they're but 3 points out of first place, which feels like a lot, but also has them 5th in the East, top 10 in the Supporters Shield race. They have the fewest goals against, although I have to say that is now a multiple way tie, including with the Seattle Sounders, who are currently in 26th, who have a +2 goal differential to their name. So things could always be a little weirder
elsewhere,
but yeah, we've got a positive goal differential. We aren't that far off of first place with this team. We got a game in hand on the first place team. I don't know. What kills me is overall in the abstract, this team is fine. They're doing fine. The big questions are like, can they just get better as a group? The question isn't like, oh my God, who is going to be our second center back, or, big questions like that. I think we're okay. I mean,
they got to score goals.
Yeah.
You look at the standings and you look at the table, they are shockingly only 2 goals behind Columbus with their high-powered offense, but Columbus is still in the middle of CONCACAF. Yeah. So you know that they're going to take off as soon as their fixture congestion is done. Our fixture congestion is over. We played through that. And the teams that we're chasing, Philadelphia, 14 goals scored. New York, 11 goals scored. Miami, 19 goals scored. The team that we're playing next week, Atlanta, 12 goals scored. And we're still on the 34 goal pace, 1 goal a game. That's not, this team's going nowhere until it figures out how to score more than 1 goal a match.
Okay, but let me offer you this. What if we only score 1 goal a match, but it is literally 1 goal a match, and it's always Yuya Kubo? It'd be kind of fun.
No, that wouldn't be fun at all. That would be horrid. That would be awful. That's a terrible thing. I don't wish for that at all.
What is the all-time MLS goal record? He might be close.
This is alarmingly good radio, by the way.
MLS goal record. Wow. Let's see. Player records career. No. Player record single season. Most goals. Carlos Vela, 34. Yuya Kubo.
He's got some work. No, that's not going to happen. If that was to happen, he'd have to score more than 1 goal a game to catch Carlos. That would be funny then if he scores 34 goals, because
whatever it is, let's say he gets 35 goals, but it is functionally 1 goal a game. That's so funny.
I don't like this. I don't like this at all.
I always love this. Carlos Valderrama, the 2000 Tampa Bay Mutiny season, will forever be the most assists in a single season. 26.
I'm sure they were cooking the books on assists back then too to pump the numbers up. I'm sure that just if you were in the general vicinity of a guy that scored a goal back then, they're like, oh yeah, give him an assist.
Yeah, nailed it.
Neat, cool, fun.
Man. Well, there you go.
Well,
that's your match recap.
That's Montreal. I don't know.
Is there anything else you wanted to...
All right, so then on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being completely unbothered 10 being I am in a full-on panic and I'm going to need to be consulting betterhelp.com in order to get through this. Which, no shame if you need that at all. I'm just using that as an example. Where are we in terms of your panic attack?
5.
5?
Maybe even a 4. I'm not...
5 feels right.
Yeah.
5 feels... Because it's... Panicked is the wrong word. Right now, I'm annoyed.
Right.
It's annoying right now that none of this is working. Because on paper, it should work.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't play... Game's not played on a spreadsheet, mate. You know?
But it is if you play Football Manager, so...
It is. Yeah.
I will say, though, especially after this loss, I might even have to go dig up the actual snippet. But I am being forced to remember a little something that Pat Brennan said in our season preview, which was, I don't know that this season's the season, that this season sets up next season being the season. And I think about that and I go, okay, well, Luca Orishano should be good. Buka gets his David Gosh theorem year. If Bupenza isn't it, it gives him the opportunity to move on. A lot of things line up with that. And I don't like that.
I don't like that either.
I want this to be the year.
I want every year to be the year.
Well, yeah, of course.
I have no patience for years where it's like, next year is going to be the thing. No.
Yeah.
Make now the most important time, okay? Now there's the fierce urgency of now.
Yes. Oh, love that expression. Yeah. No, that's where I stand with that.
Next weekend will be another weekend to see if things get better.
And if not, oh boy, get your hashtags ready. No, I did see Auxilia One posted the pat out hashtag.
Pat out. Oh, come on.
Just to be clear, this is the first time in the league, I will say, so I'll get around Grayson's semantics. In the league, this is the first time since May of last year that they've lost back-to-back games. Going all the way back to 2022, this is but the 4th time that they have lost 2 games in a row. I will say, though, under Pat Noonan, the team has never lost 3 league games in a row.
Oh, man. It's tempting fate.
There's a first time for everything. Like that would be an insane record to keep up.
I don't want that first time. That first time sucks. I do not like that, Sam I am.
So, but again, like, man, if you're hashtag Pat out, man, I bet you're the best Real Madrid fan.
Yeah. How is it being a PSG fan?
Yeah, right. I love, so I'm a Duke basketball fan, but I'm an Alabama football fan is the thing.
Right. Obviously. What was I going to say? I had bought a plane ticket to go to this game at one point because I had a couple of friends were talking about going to this. And I'm very glad I didn't now because it looked cold and rainy. And we probably should have noted in our preview that this was their first home game of the year, that they'd played 6 games on the road.
I'm not acknowledging that.
Yeah, no. Well, Grayson didn't pick up on it either, so I can't think either one of us are blamed by that. He's the smart one of the group.
Yeah.
He's supposed to know things like that.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting, too, going back at the end of the season and looking back and seeing like,
you know Montreal is going to finish like 8th.
Oh, yeah, okay, fair.
They've got 8th place energy all over them.
I like to imagine that we're only struggling against good teams and we're beating bad teams, but not that
which makes us not a good team under that logic.
I know. But I'd rather be that than losing against bad teams too.
Right. Segment 2.
Let's jump over to part 2. And before we get into the next part of the episode, I want to tell you about our other sponsor, Cincy Shirts. And if you're going to sit here and tell me that you've never heard of Cincy Shirts, I'm going to sit here and tell you I don't believe you. Because these guys have been with FC Cincinnati from the very beginning. And we here at The Post, well, we are just huge fans of their work. They have tons of really cool FC Cincinnati gear, shirts, hoodies, hats, all sorts of cool stuff. Go over to their website, check out what they are selling. You want to go to cincyshirts.com. That is Cincy with a Y, or you can just click the link in the description of this episode. And when you go there, use the promo code ThePostCincy, all one word, all caps, and they will knock 10% off your next order. They have MLS and MLSPA licensed FCC gear available online or in their 3 retail locations in Hyde Park, Fort Mitchell, or Loveland. And I can attest to this. I've used this before. If they don't have your size on the shelf, they can probably print you one on the spot in the store. So again, huge thank you to Cincy Shirts for sponsoring the podcast, and a huge thank you to you, dear listener, for using that promo code. All right. Part 2. Look, we can only talk about a loss for so long. There's a whole league of things to talk about, and we got a couple of items here. Chief, I will say my buddy was pointing this out, especially on Twitter. The Inter Miami traveling to Arrowhead was a particularly, I'll say, disgusting moment, but man,
yeah,
I'm curious what your thoughts were on this one overall.
My thoughts are, I said it online. I am so glad that whoever, if it was ever brought up to the FC Cincinnati Illuminati, the leadership of FC Cincinnati, if the idea was ever brought up of moving a game to Paycor Stadium or Paul Brown Stadium or whatever, I am so happy that whoever that person was shouted down and shut down. You imagine that you have a soccer stadium, it's your home.
Yeah.
This is our home field. This is our fortress. This is where we win. This is where our supporters gather. This is our place. And then you're like, you know what would be great is if we moved out of that to make more room for people coming to see our opposition. That would be incredible.
Why even play the game at home at that point?
Right. Go play at a neutral site somewhere.
Yeah. Go sell out
even
Dallas,
more tickets.
Jerry World.
Right?
Yeah, collect the gate, baby. Who gives a shit?
Go to a city where they don't have MLS. Go to Baltimore and play the game in Baltimore or something like that. They'd all love that. Man. Or go play it in Tampa. You don't think that they'd have a ton of fans in Tampa to want to watch Argentinian legend?
Man, it'd be
Lionel
so
Messi?
funny to go play in Chicago.
We're sorry that you didn't see him the last go around. So here you go, fellas. I don't know. And then it was just, I think we're thinking of our same mutual friend where just this, this cute, the goat's here. And it's so excited and fawning over this opposition player coming in. You imagine that? You imagine the Cincinnati Bengals fawning all over whatever quarterback was coming in, like Patrick Mahomes is in town. Here comes the GOAT.
Oh my God. It's so gross. And they were probably selling Messi jerseys in the stadium and everything. It sucks so much to be a fan of an MLS team. If you imagine you were a supporter of Sporting Kansas City, not even a long time one. Say you just been along for the ride for the last 3 years or so. You're starting to invest in this club, and all of a sudden they're like, yeah, you're actually worth a lot less to us than all of these other people.
Right.
We're going to take away all of your ability to have a home field advantage. We're going to take away all of your ability to express your support. We are going to make it such that, this is the part that kills me. So I guess that the hope is that of the 70,000, some percentage of them continue to be SKC fans because they weren't SKC fans before. And it feels kind of obvious. But you're not selling them on your stadium. You're not selling them on your home environment. You're not even selling them on your team at this point.
It's a bait and switch.
Oh, man.
You're selling them on this and then saying, come watch us at this completely other place where things are completely different, and hoping that they will make the transition with that. That's absurd.
So let's say I'm trying to think of the equivalent of let's say you're trying to sell tickets to Xavier Baseball. And so you stage a game with Xavier Baseball and the Savannah Bananas in Great American Ballpark, and beforehand you get Bruce Springsteen to play a concert. You're like, oh, this is awesome. You're going to get 10 extra Xavier baseball fans at the next regular season home game.
I came for this other thing, not for you. Right. You've been here the entire time. If I wanted to do this, I would have done it already.
It just doesn't make any sense that this is the...
It just feels like the wrong way to leverage what Messi is. Mm-hmm. You know what the right way to do it? Honestly, and I know it's like, I'm not trying to pump the tires of we're FC Cincinnati fans. Let's pump them up.
Yeah.
It was exactly what happened during the Open Cup game last year.
Yes.
Where it's at TQL Stadium and it's a really hard ticket. And it is like, you've got to be here. You want to see cool things like this? You better be an FC Cincinnati season ticket holder.
Yep.
Or you better be prepared to pay through the nose for people looking to make some money on this game. That's how you build a fan base and goodwill with your fan base. It's like, this is the place to be to see things like that. I can't have confidence that when they roll around and they roll the circus into town, I can get a ticket for $20. I need to be in this local thing, doing this local thing. And if you're there, you're like, this is awesome. This is the stadium experience. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to be a part of this every week. But instead, you give them something else that isn't your product. And I don't understand how that makes, I don't understand how that's leveraging Messi being an MLS to make new fans and to grow the experience of being an MLS.
I don't get it. And it just devalues your product to be like all business analytics about it. But like, it just devalues SKC. You're just turning them into the Washington Generals for the Globetrotters to come to town. And you're telling people that, yeah, so we do this thing over here, but it actually doesn't matter. So we're going to actually do it at Arrowhead this time because it's like this is a big deal that our team is going to lose to the best player of all time. It's just like such a weird attitude.
Tell me if you think this is I'm off base on this.
Okay.
I would be willing to bet a large sum of money that at least one person in the league offices floated the idea of just letting Miami break the rules as long as Messi is there so that they could create the Harlem Globetrotters and just make the rest of the league the Washington Generals for 2 years.
Yeah,
I'll bet that was suggested by someone.
The actual pitch mentions Generals and Globetrotters 100%.
Yeah. That just make them a traveling circus and let them spend $200 million buying the best players they possibly can. We ended up with the worst of all worlds of this, where they're just letting them cheat a little bit.
Right. So they're good, but they can actually still get knocked out by Monterrey in the CONCACAF Champions League.
And if you think that happened, and I absolutely do, what do you think that guy was like in the league offices the day after they got knocked out by Monterrey? Be like, if only someone would have suggested we let them buy better players so they could win a game like this. I don't know. Was that me? Was that what I was suggesting right here? To let them spend $100 million to make this a super team for the GOAT?
You know, it's so funny that MLS exists and you can interpret and understand so much about MLS by just understanding that they desperately don't want to recreate the original NASL's mistakes. Yes. And the second they're offered the Pele, they're like, let's make New York Cosmos. Let's do this.
But they won't go all out on it. They're so afraid of what if we got Pele, but then didn't spend any more money so that when Pele is gone, everything will still be okay.
Right. It's just like...
No, that is funny too. I think we've talked about this before, but that everything about MLS makes so much more sense if you understand why the ASL collapsed. Mm-hmm. And that it's purpose-built. The league is purpose-built to stop it from failing on its own. And not only to stop it from failing, but to stop the people running it from having the ability to screw it up.
Yes.
Like there's the old joke about like flying a plane where most modern aircraft can be flown by two people as long as they're not a Boeing. A pilot and a dog. The pilot is there to activate the autopilot, and the dog is there to bite the pilot if he tries to turn the autopilot off.
Right.
Like MLS is designed to be the dog.
Yes.
The rules are designed to bite the owners if they ever like, hey, why don't we, TV ratings are down. Let's all spend $100 million and really make some great rosters. Like, nope. Bad. Nope. Don't do that. That's how the NASL died.
It's unsustainable. Once you start feeding that dragon, there's no end in there. Yeah, That's exactly what it is. It's so infuriating. I am reminded though of like 2 fan interactions I had last year. One was during the Miami game where we were booing Messi every time he touched the ball, and some guy was very upset. He said, "How could you boo a legend of the game?" I said, "He's playing against my team, my guy.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter."
How could you do that? It's real easy. You just cup your hands to your mouth and start going,
"Do you not know how to boo?"
Here, let me teach you. It's real easy. It's one syllable. You just hold it for as long as you can keep air in your lungs.
That just reminded me too. I think every person we saw with a Messi shirt, we said, "Hey, thanks for traveling to Cincinnati," just to like really air it home. That like, you're not from here, then, are you? But then I believe you were there. It was the League's Cup game, the Chivas match that got rained out or delayed on the lightning delay.
Oh yeah, we were down in the Tunnel Club for this one. I remember this.
We were, and there was a guy down there who said he's a big Chivas guy. He's living in Indianapolis, and he just bought the best available ticket the second the game came up. But he said he was so impressed with the stadium and the team and the environment that he was going to buy tickets and come back more often. It's like, yeah. That's actually how you expand the fan base and grow the game and get people to come. If that guy shows up to a Chivas match at, Paul Brown and it's 80% Chivas fans, he doesn't give a shit.
No, he's never coming back because he never saw like what this could be and what the league could be at its best. And they're robbing people in Kansas City of that. And they rob people in Chicago. Well, I mean, I guess Chicago plays at Soldier Field anyway, which sucks. But like when you move these games to big cavernous facilities for the goal of just popping an attendance number and selling things out, in the long run, it doesn't help the league. And I'm shocked. I guess it's obviously a cash grab for all these owners, but man, that ain't it.
How do you not have just a hint of foresight? Like, this is what they teach children as like a developmental school. Like, I can give you 1 marshmallow now, or if you wait 5 minutes, I'll give you 3 marshmallows later.
Yeah.
Like, well, give me the marshmallow now. Like, that's right. Like, oh my God.
Every one of these owners, just give me the marshmallow. I don't give a shit. I'm not even waiting for the graham cracker and the chocolate. I just want to eat the marshmallow raw.
Also,
like a savage.
Whoever at FCC did pitch Paul Brown Stadium, you know what you could have done that would have got the fan base split and therefore on your side?
Nippert Stadium.
Nippert? Yeah. That would have been a good excuse. People are dying for one last one. Although I think they filled in the cutouts back in Nippert, so
did they?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
Or maybe they're not as dramatic.
It's probably a non-starter because both of them are artificial playing surfaces. It might have been a closer question if they had access to a larger natural grass facility.
Yeah.
But although if you could tell me he wouldn't play on artificial turf, I might be okay with that, just to not have to deal with his nonsense anymore.
God damn, we should have moved the Open Cup semifinal to Nippert.
No, don't even go there.
It was right there in front of us the whole time.
All right, so Kevin, I flagged this for you.
Please.
And I want to get your reaction on this. So this is not MLS, but we're just, this is a grab bag.
Yeah.
It's MLS adjacent, and here's why.
Okay.
So over the weekend, America's second favorite team, Wrexham AFC, in the prestigious League Two of the UK soccer pyramid, secured promotion to League One. This is on the heels of being promoted from the National League in the previous year, and they are now promoted to League. They're promoted to League Two. Now they're promoted to League One. You may know Wrexham AFC is the team that is owned by Deadpool and his much less successful and much less well-known friend from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Kevin, I ask you this. Is this an example of the magic of pro rel? Or are you with me in saying that this is just the best endorsement of the MLS system, in that at least we're open about the fact that you just buy your way into the top league, whereas these guys are quite literally just buying their way up the English soccer pyramid. And the only thing that's going to stop them, as far as I can tell, is the fact that neither one of them are wealthy enough to buy much past the championship, I think.
Yeah, I actually think League One is where they're going to start to run into some problems, because once you get to League One, there's a lot of former Premier League teams in League One. It's going to get a lot tougher.
It isn't quite as bad as the Championship. The Championship is all teams that I can recall.
Yes.
Mostly in my adult lifetime have been in the Premier League. But this is kind of gross that people were like tweeting about this and talking about the magic of Pro Rel.
Yeah.
And that it's two Hollywood guys that bought a title in back-to-back years for this small team. And look, I like Welcome to Wrexham. I've watched both seasons. I am thrilled to death for all of those very tragically British-looking people that they feature on the show that are like the townies of Wrexham. This would have to be the coolest thing ever, that you're a fan of this team that hasn't done shit for 20 years, is on the verge of bankruptcy, the stadium is falling down, and you just get this magical lifeline by a guy that is the most foul-mouthed superhero on the planet. Like, that's awesome. But this isn't good for the sport. This is not sporting merit. This is financial merit. This is just, we have outspent everyone by a factor of 10 in order to help propel this team and like get better ratings for our documentary. This is nonsense.
Yeah.
Am I not a fan? Am I a bad person for looking at this and just being utterly cynical about what's going on?
No, I don't think you are. I think this is ultimately the problem with like the Pro Rel promise, is that it is always sold with the stories of the teams going up and never with the teams going down. So if I may.
You may, please do.
I'll offer a counterbalance to this, which is a team getting relegated out of League Two and therefore out of professional soccer. Is a team called Forest Green Rovers. And they are a team, founded 134 years ago. But they are a team that have committed themselves to environmental justice to the point where the entire team and even the servings on the concourses are entirely vegan. They're trying to build an entirely wood stadium build it.
Are you trying to convince me that this is a good idea that they've been kicked out of professional football?
My point is,
hippies,
is that they attempt to stand for something good. They are a community-owned club that is trying to bring their positive message of environmentalism to a broader audience by expanding and growing their way up the English pyramid. And this team is going to be relegated out of the professional leagues and down into the National League, which, as the documentary Welcome to Wrexham demonstrates, very difficult to get out of. They might not be able to rejoin the professional ranks for some time. So we have the Hollywood guys buying a team because it would make good TV, and the 134-year-old community-owned club that is trying to advocate for a cleaner, more just world. And one of these teams is getting relegated, and I suppose we have to celebrate this as well. And the other team just bought themselves promotion, where they will eventually just become cannon fodder to various Russian oligarchs and Middle Eastern sheiks and other captains of industry that have even more money than Hollywood superstars.
Because we have to celebrate relegation. It's funny how the Pro Rel truthers, they never post the videos of the tragedy of relegation. It's always people on the field celebrating promotion. This is what soccer means. It's not the dudes that are, crying in the stands because they've lost professional status for their club for no fault of their own. Like, do both. I challenge you to do both. If you love Pro Rel so much, you can't just love the pro. You've got to love the Rel too. So why don't you tweet more and shove it in the faces of the people that are losing their lifeblood and losing their livelihood when their teams go down? Yeah. That's more honest about that.
Look, to be clear, I love promotion and relegation. I think it's a lot of fun.
How dare you?
I think it's a lot of fun.
It's not.
I do think, though, that there has to be some way that a team cannot buy a title. And I understand that runs counter to a lot of the arguments of Pro Rel. But if the idea is that it is sporting merit, then it has to be sports that determines who goes up and who goes down. And that can't be by injecting cash into teams and they get good on one season. Because remember, too, The downside is Wrexham was a once prestigious club that was bought by an owner that stripped it, sold it for parts, got tons of money, leased the stadium back to the team from themselves. It's one of the greatest, most like cartoonishly evil things you've ever seen, which is like, it'd be like if Carl Leonard buys West End Stadium from the Port Authority and forces FCC and therefore MLS to rent it at like $100 million a year. Like, what are you doing, man? We're on the same team.
It's just stripping it of cash.
Yeah, like that is the downside of relegation, which is that these are ultimately businesses that are being run as community clubs in name only, and they're ripe for exploitation. Is Wrexham nothing but a pump and dump scheme, right? Like, isn't that the plan? Because I think, at least in terms of raw wages, I don't think they spent more than £500,000 on guys. Now, they spent millions of dollars in stadium renovations and all sorts of other promotions and things like that. But it's, I don't know, man. It's just, it's all a farce. It's so funny to see people like, there's nothing different in my mind to that than FCC buying an MLS expansion side. Like, it's the same thing.
It's the same song. It's all the same song. I do want Carl Linder to buy another team somewhere.
Yes.
Just to offload bad contracts too.
Yes.
Or like spend, if like Wrexham costs £3 million, get Carl to buy some team in League Two. Get him to buy the Forest Green. Get him to buy the, environmental justice people.
He'd
get
love
a team over there. Yeah, seriously. I mean, they seem like they align on so much. And then you can loan Kimi over there, or you can loan people over there to those teams over there, and like get them to get experience on your own team. We need a European reserve side, is what I'm saying. The hell with Newport Football, or Commonwealth United FC. Let's buy one in the British Commonwealth. How about that?
Let's see. Let's take a look at the table. Who could we buy? We
definitely want League One. We want League One, right?
We want a League Two team. So it's really hard to get relegated there. So that's good. Accrington Stanley could be really funny. That's a good one. They were a punchline from an old English, like, I guess a milk advertisement, but yeah.
Right.
Like,
isn't AFC Wimbledon, isn't that different than the team that was from Wimbledon? Didn't they relocate there from something else, somewhere else?
Of course, you stumble across like the one story that is like the antithesis of your argument here. So what happened was there was Wimbledon, that was the team, and their owners, they had new owners. They were trying to move it to a new, let's say like Westchester Liberty Town Center type thing that was Milton Keynes, a subdivision, let's call it, near London. And they tried to move the team, and they let them. They actually let them up and move the team, let them keep the league position that Wimbledon was in. But they changed the team name to MK Dons, Milton Keynes Dons. The Dons was the mascot of Wimbledon. Wimbledon restarted all the way at the bottom of the pyramid and fought their way up. And you'll notice if you look at the old League Two table, they're in the same league.
Yeah.
So they've actually the Phoenix club, as it were, had to play.
So that'd be funny if we bought them and rebranded them again as FC Cincinnati Wimbledon. Wimbledon FCC.
Now, Wimbledon is fan owned. They're one of the few that is actually owned by
it's even better. You can
trust.
Swindle the fans out of money. They'll sell. Everybody has their price, as Ted DiBiase, professional wrestler, once said.
Well, what I'm saying is, and this is your move, buying MK Dons is the true villain shit. And it would truly align with Carl's philosophies.
Yes. More.
So there you go. And MK Dons being bought by a American investor is very on brand.
Yeah, I'm into that.
So there you go. That's our pitch to Carl, is to buy MK Dons.
Kevin, next topic. You flagged this, but I'll intro it anyway because
Please.
I do fancy myself as the reserve host for this podcast when you're not around. So I got to practice my game here. There is reporting coming to us from the Extra Time podcast that perhaps we may be awarding our Club World Cup hosting spot to the winner of MLS Cup this year.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me more about this.
So, this is a funny one. The Club World Cup has historically been a weird competition. It's
kind of an afterthought.
Yeah, it's super valuable to the Middle East and South America. Like the only two regions of the world that care. And by Middle East, I do mean like the Arab world. So like the Egyptian and North African teams always take it seriously. The Brazilian teams and the Argentinian teams always take it seriously. But it's a competition that usually happens in the winter, like in December or January. They had been hosting it all over the world. And the idea was you take the Champions League winners of all of the 6 regions of the world, of the FIFA federations, plus the previous or the current title holder of the Club World Cup, and the host city's club team. And that makes up your 8-team tournament. It's seeded in such a way that like mid-tier and low-tier college basketball teams do their conference titles, which is like, it's a ladder seed where you have to kind of fight your way through. And if you make it to the end, then you get to play the South American and European champions. That's how it's historically always been. 2025, they're changing things up. They're inviting 32 teams. They're trying to do it more of the World Cup style, where they're going to take a smattering of winners over the last 3 or 4 years to make up. I think it's what they want all of the regions to send 4-ish teams to the competition, but they are keeping a host spot for this tournament. So not doing just 32 teams, they're doing all of them. Here, I actually have the seating. So Asia gets 4 teams, Africa gets 4 teams, CONCACAF gets 4 teams, South America gets 6 teams, Oceania gets 1 team, and Europe, UEFA gets 12 teams.
Of course they do.
Throw in 1 CONCACAF host slot that makes it up. But yeah, according to Paul Tenorio on the Extra Time podcast, the league is debating and is leaning this way. The winner of the 2024 MLS Cup this year will be able to host and take that spot and therefore play their way into the Club World Cup.
So that's interesting. However, am I too conspiracy minded when I say that I just feel like they're going to find a way to award it to Inter Miami to make sure Lionel Messi plays in this in an MLS uniform?
Sure feels that way. And
that like they're going to say, you know what, given the historic and incredible original version of the Leagues Cup, we are going to award the Club World Cup participant to the winner of the first ever Leagues Cup. The inaugural Leagues Cup champion becomes our Club World Cup participant.
Ooh, or I like that. Or this is what they do. So you wait to see if Miami wins Leagues Cup this year and or MLS Cup. If they can win one of them this year, you give it to them. But if they can't, this is my proposal to MLS. This is so stupid. You take the winner of Leagues Cup last year, the winner of MLS Cup last year, the winner of Leagues Cup this year, winner of MLS Cup this year, 4-team tournament for the host. This way, you only have put Miami 2 games away from hosting.
And then somehow you arrange it so that like the tournament is played in Miami.
Of course.
So all games are played down in Miami because they'll have to play it after the season.
Oh, yeah. You play it in December. You need a warm city. Absolutely.
You need a warm city. So you play it in Miami at the Inter Miami facility in Fort Lauderdale. Everybody else has to stay down there to play it.
Yeah.
And give Miami the home field advantage.
So then, yeah, it'd be Miami and crew. And then let's say Liga MX side wins Leagues Cup, which doesn't seem impossible. And yeah, and then let's say FC Cincinnati wins MLS Cup. So that's your tournament.
Or no, the tournament is throw us in there.
Yeah.
We won Supporters Shield last year, so it's the three trophy winners, Supporters Shield, because we don't recognize US Open Cup any longer.
Doesn't exist.
So it's Supporters Shield last year, Leagues Cup last year, MLS Cup last year, Supporters Shield this year, Leagues Cup this year, MLS Cup. It's 2 of those 3 group pods like they had in Leagues Cup, and the winner of each pod ends up going on and playing. Or
do you give the Leagues Cup winners buys? And so that way Miami's even closer. Yeah. Because it is CONCACAF's spot to award. So it's not necessarily the US's, although it is being hosted in the US. So it'd be kind of weird to give it to a Mexican team.
But no, it's the host spot, right? It's like we're getting the US's spot to award because we're getting the host spot. We're hosting.
Yeah. Okay. That's my fault. I was thinking CONCACAF got to award it, but you're right. It is the US. So yeah. Which excludes Canadian teams right away. So this is good. Our chances are improving.
I like this.
Oh, if Toronto won MLS Cup, would they give it to them?
No.
No, you can't.
No, they're not Americans.
Oh man, that'd be so
What is the most
funny.
convoluted way they could give it to Miami?
So maybe you try to come up with some sort of weight system where you say the Leagues Cup is worth so many points, regular season is worth so many points, but you just weight it in the right way that they come out ahead in the aggregate rankings. So they had a pretty good regular season and they won a trophy, so they win.
Yeah, so what you say is that winning Leagues Cup is worth 20 points, winning Supporters Shield is worth 5 points, and winning MLS Cup is worth 5 points.
Right.
So the only possible way Miami doesn't win this is if either Crew or us wins Leagues Cup this year.
Right. Or again, you just hope for a Mexican team to win and just take it off the table for somebody else. In case you're wondering, from CONCACAF, the 3 confirmed teams are Monterrey, the Seattle Sounders, and León. Those are the winners of the 2021, 2022, and 2023 Champions Leagues.
There's something where if Monterrey wins it this year,
yes,
I think that Philly Union somehow qualifies for Club World Cup in some way. I don't understand how that happens, but I think I heard that on a broadcast.
That is exactly what happens. I've not read the article, so we're doing great here. But my understanding is okay, here it is. God bless. Okay, if Monterrey, as they already won in 2021, they're already in. If they win the 2024 Champions League, the spot will be redistributed to the next best eligible team in the Confederation's 4-year ranking. Clubs from Mexico are not eligible via the 4-year ranking due to the restrictions of 2 clubs per association. So they already have Monterrey and León in, which means it would have to go to the U.S., and the best team in the U.S. with no ability to change this in a way that would matter is the Philadelphia Union. They have 41 points in this ranking system. So if Monterrey wins, Philadelphia gets a Club World Cup spot.
Man. It just can't be Crew. I would be really annoyed if they made Club World Cup.
That would be devastating.
Because that would also mean they won CONCACAF Champions League before us. So that would be just horrendous. So go Monterrey on that one.
It'd be really nice to get one title before them. Yeah. Just one version of the trophy. Leagues Cup. Whatever it is.
Yeah, we got to win.
I'll take it.
Care.
So there you go. So even more reason to root for Monterrey. If you're a MLS fan, you want to see Philadelphia Union make it. That's fun.
Yeah. Maybe Brandon will score some goals too. We go on to segment 3?
Let's do segment 3. Let's do some listener questions from the Patreon, and let's get out of here. All right, we're back, and we've got a couple of questions here from the very fine, very attractive folks over at the Patreon. Look, if you want to support us by giving us money, you can find links to that in the show notes, or search around on Patreon. We're not that hard to find, I don't think. But as a part of your tithing, you do get to ask one and only one question a month, which we will answer. This is Graysonless this year. This year. Wow, that would be so sad. No, this episode. So if we answer your question, just know I may force Grayson to answer these in some way, shape, or form later. But, Chief, I ask you this. It comes to us from KP. Who on the team could you take in an arm wrestle?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Oh. A lot of them.
Not a arm heavy sport, this soccer.
No. I would say I would feel most confident. I would feel most confident against probably Dotto.
Okay.
Or maybe Lucho.
Wow.
Lucho, I mean, yeah, he's small.
I like the way you're thinking. See, this is where I went.
Size.
Steven Jimenez.
Jimenez, yeah, you got the kid.
Give me the 16-year-old.
Yeah. No, but he might still be strong. Like, you get some 16, you might still be thinking, I'm going to lift some weights.
Yeah.
I got to get my body size up a little bit because everyone's older than me. You're really looking for somebody where it's like they have not bothered with the arms in a decade.
There's a decent chance you break Sergio Santos's arm.
It's entirely possible.
He's not the most durable.
He's wiry, I think is the term you would use for him. Who do you think? Who would you not want to go up against?
This is where I was going. Alec Can. I think. Yeah. First off, any of the goalkeepers, but
yeah, Evan. I don't want to go up against Evan. I feel like Evan spends some time with the curl machine. Yeah.
Can's a good one, but of course, I mean, the correct answer is Mbuka, the strongest guy on
who's the strongest man on the team. Yeah. he's whatever the Czech version of country strong is. That's Pavel Buka.
Yeah. If you were hired by the club, where would you want to work? This comes to us from David Ziegler.
That's an interesting question.
This is good. Try not to dox yourself here.
Yeah.
there's a very specific spot where it's kind of surprising they haven't hired you, but
yeah. You don't want to be involved in players because I don't know dick about, soccer players, right. And I would make really bad decisions. Mm-hmm. I think it would be fun to be the person that does like the promotions and figures out like what night and what we're doing for each one of these things. So I'm assuming you have some say-so in who pulls the sword. Yeah. That'd be a lot of fun. Like what the night at the stadium is, when you do fan appreciation night, you do Hispanic Heritage night. I think it'd be fun to come up with a lot of different nights that you could do just to sort of, I'm already saying that I want, tarps off for the boys in the Bailey one night or no sleeves night, formal dress night. I think I would have some fun with that. I think that would be good.
Would you go promotion every night or do you let it
every
breathe?
Night.
Okay.
Every night. Promotion. You go promotion every night. And but like some of the promotions I would want to like outsource to the supporters where we're leaving a couple of these blank and we're going to call the supporters in like, you call your shot. What kind of night we want to do this night?
See, that's where you would call me because I'm hiring myself for supporter relations, baby. That's where I want to be. I want to manage those hooligans.
I don't want to sell tickets. I don't want to do that. That sounds miserable. Public address announcer? That sounds like fun.
That'd be a fun one.
Yeah, not a lot going on. All you got to do is avoid being like the hello Bailey guy, and you're already not the worst person we've ever had.
That's awful good. Australian accent. My favorite version of that, or ending of that, is the best part, which is that like people were talking on Twitter like, man, thank God we're getting a new one. He's moving on, and he just like went on a rant on Twitter, was like insulting everybody. Just could not stop.
How much I hated it working here. Yeah,
man, this is a great way to burn your legacy. Yeah. All right, this is a good one. I'm going to hire the postcast as the radio commentary crew. Love you, Tommy G, but I think it would be funnier.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be nearly as informative. And as a radio broadcast, it'd be terrible. You would not know what's going on. But I think it would be a lot of fun.
I think we would, like, this is, again, tooting our own horn a little bit. I think it would be fun to have the ability to be unofficial in this regard, but just, have a couple more players on, just be like, hey, tell me funny stories about your life and what it is that you do, and just, help beam a little more relatable for a couple of these guys.
Maybe that's the play. Actually, what we want is to be the professional podcast for FC Cincinnati, and they just pay us a living wage to do this.
Do you remember when Jonah had Liz Summers on KLR?
Yes.
His only interview that he ever did. It was wild.
The
that he
best
does
one.
Yeah. And she told the story of when Jurgen Locadia got signed, and they took the picture of him trying Skyline. And she had to explain to him, I think the story went that, look, it's a local thing. You're going to get asked if you try it. Just take a bite and you can say that you've done it, okay? And we'll take a photo and it'll be a thing. And he tried and he was like, this is terrible. And it's like, okay, at least you've done, get it out of the way. I want to be the guy that takes every new signee to Skyline and Graders just so that they can answer the question from reporters, have you tried Skyline yet?
Oh, that's such a good call. How is that not just like a reoccurring video bit? Like LAFC has like the head tilt. I don't know if people have seen that. So they always wear a hat in the video with the brim down, and then they lift their head up to reveal the new signing. They reveal every signing this way. They tease signings this way. They had like a great video of their general manager picking out 3 hats out of a closet.
It's the menu. Like they have a Skyline menu and they drop the menu down. Because here's the thing, is that it's symbolic too. Is that when you are not from Cincinnati, you need the menu. And so you have the menu and you drop the menu down. And it's like, I'm a Cincinnatian now. I don't need the menu. It's just there for decoration.
Oh my God, it's so good. Yeah. And they could customize like what their item is, and it'd be really funny to be like, oh my God, that's 2 Cholitos. Like he's going deep in the lore. This is great.
Yeah. I desperately want to be the guy also that brings my Coney of the game concept to TQL Stadium, where it's based on whoever you're playing.
It's got some legs. We got to do this.
Or like there's a Coney for the new player coming in. Like there's a Czech Coney for Pavel Buka, and it's like combine Cincinnati chili with something that is a Czech dish, whatever that would be. I mean, Grayson would be a big help in this space, incidentally.
We're really missing Grayson right here.
I know.
It feels like a sausage country. I bet they'd have a good sausage to have on a Coney.
What I'm learning from this question is that the club made the right call not hiring either one of us.
That's probably correct.
That's probably a really good idea. Yeah. A lot of bad ideas. Hit me with one more and we'll get out of here.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. No, we'll save that one until we have
Save it for Grayson.
Excuse me. Kyle Lukel asks, that's how I'm going to pronounce your name. I'm sorry, Kyle.
Go for it.
Is it better to have 3 DPs and 3 U22s, or 2 DPs and 4 U22s? And 200.
What's the ratio? What is the ratio of? This is like a Schrute Bucks to Stanley Nichols situation. What is the ratio of DP? How much is a DP worth?
So DPs.
How many U22s do you think a DP is worth?
So I'll tell you this. I'll give you the hard numbers in terms of budget charge. The U22 is about 1/4 of a DP's budget charge. So,
but also more likely to be 1/4 of the DP's talent if you're doing things the right way.
Yeah.
Or not talent, 1/4 of the DP's production, because they tend to be older, more seasoned. You're not teaching them how to play soccer.
But if you get that one right, you got like a $15 million payday ahead of you. They're going to crush it.
Yeah. I think the ratio is 2. That 1 DP is worth 2 U22s.
Okay.
I think. Maybe. I don't know. I to give up a DP, I would need like 3 extra U22s, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. So the league's math is that plus 2 million GAM, which, again, in terms of cap hits, is incredible. I think it's better to have the 3 DPs and the 3 U22s.
Yeah.
Because especially given that MLS values the knockout cup competition, that the difference in those games are the designated players. This is the reason why the New York Red Bulls and the Philadelphia Union have not won MLS Cup. They're great regular season teams. They are designated teams as, what's his face, the Penguin Diddler.
St. Louis?
Yeah.
The Penguin Diddler. Listen to some back episodes.
Yeah.
You'll figure it out.
The police were curious about him. So yeah, it's good during the regular season, but when it comes to cup competitions, you need the star power. You need the guys who can take it up a notch, and those are your DPs, and that's why those teams don't win. That and COVID for Philly, but that's why those teams don't win. And yeah.
So in theory, would it change your mind if you had an owner that had virtually unlimited pockets and was committed to, I am going to use the U22 spots to go to places like Brazil, and I'm going to blow people away with massive offers for very, very talented. Like, I'm going to go to Brazil, and I'm going to outbid, I'm going to pay you a number you can't refuse for the best player you have that you are thinking, I'm going to make a lot of money selling this guy to Europe at some point. And just your bit is, we go and we don't care if we make a $10 million whiff on a U22. We're going to go and try and find the absolute best young talent. Cost be damned.
That is what they should be doing. That's what Toronto should be doing. Now, I understand they're using transfer.
What Colorado should be doing. Kroenke is worth $1 billion, like $15 billion. What does it care if he loses $10 million on a transfer like that? He can sell the player to Arsenal at some point.
Exactly. Go to Brazil. Compete for the young talent. We see these guys move all the time. Imagine if you were able to poach Neymar or Messi early enough. Like, you give me 4 of those guys, those early in their career guys, and I get a couple of DPs. Man, yeah, you could do some serious damage.
That's probably the marketing effect. There's probably a reason why this doesn't work, other than the fact that you would probably be burning through a shitload of money whiffing on a lot of these players. But if you just committed yourself to finding the guy, or I guess, couldn't you bring in some of these like academy guys from the Premier League on U22 deals?
I think so. Again, this is where we could use Grayson. I don't know if you can bring them in on a loan, but I think that would be a really nice cheat code. But yeah, there's like young guys in the Premier League like, hey man, you want to make like a ton of money? We'll blow your mind here with these transfer fees. I understand there may have to be some some payments in some weird spots here. But yeah, there's the custom of getting about 10% of your transfer fee. So if you make the transfer fee high enough, you could cover up some low wages. It'd be nice. Nice.
It feels like someone will learn how to at some point exploit the U22 marketplace.
Yeah.
It feels like an area where it's rife for, this is a way you could flex with cash. Yeah. If you want to spend a lot of money this way.
So there is a way. I came up with this theoretical example before, but like, you can bid on a team that has 2 players that you want, a player that fits under U22 and a player that doesn't. And say you offer $50 million for the U22 player.
And then the other guy has to come on a free.
And the other guy's on a free or for $100,000 or whatever it is, right? And so you're just like, yeah, this is all the transfer fees on the U22 guy.
Shit, that's a really good idea, actually.
Yeah, so then everything else plays out as normal. But like, I think the example I gave was how you get Mo Salah and like some 21-year-old on Liverpool at the same time. Is you pay $60 million for the 21-year-old.
As long as you can keep his salary under $1.5 million a year, which he ain't going for.
Right. You know, there's some playing around there, but yeah.
You need to play around with that a little bit. No, I like this idea, though. Like gaming the U22 system. If you can figure out a way to game the U22 system, fuck yeah, give me more of those slots.
So there you go. That's the plan. So yeah. You get 2 DPs, 4 U22s with a lot of money to spend. That's the move.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
I don't think this episode's going to do well in the downloads. We need some more committed fans that are downloading rain or shine, win or loss. That's a challenge to the 12s. You know.
Yeah.
You got to prove your worth by downloading and listening all the way through, even if we lose.
Mm-hmm. Man, We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, well, we're going to get there eventually. We'll get there together.
As a fan base, yes.
As a fan base, you know, we're united by love. We're united by club. We're united by city. And we're united by our hatred of our big enemy, San Diego. Go fuck yourself, San Diego.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Cincy Postcast. It is a production of The Post Cincy. You can check us out at thepostcincy.com or just click a link in the description to check out some of our written work. It also has links to our social media accounts across all sorts of different platforms, including YouTube, where we are trying to do more and more video content. Please, dare I say it, like and subscribe and leave a comment. But no, that would be really, really helpful. I also want to give a thank you to Jim Trace and the Makers. They're a local Cincinnati band who provided all of the music for this episode. We love having them on board. You can check them out. Again, link in the description of this episode to find out where they might be playing shows next or where you can listen to more of their music. Also want to give a massive, massive thank you to the awesome and very attractive patrons over on Patreon. It is a voluntary subscription that people take out with no real promise of anything extra that keep this show afloat. And we are so, so thankful to those of you that have decided to take that commitment. If you do like the show, or at least just want to engage with other people who have listened to the show and want to talk about FC Cincinnati, MLS, soccer, or really anything else, you can go on over to Discord. Again, link in the description. Lots of links in the description where you can find a link to the Discord. That's where we are keeping the conversation going 24/7. It feels like it's a really fun group of people in there just talking about FC Cincinnati. And like I said, just about everything else. And finally, I'll say it. If you liked this episode, and given the fact that you've made it all the way to the end, I have to assume you either like it or for some reason cannot reach the stop button. Please share this episode with a friend or family member or someone who likes FC Cincinnati. The best way for us to grow is from a personal recommendation from somebody who likes it. And if that's you, please tell other people. And if you don't have any friends, feel free to give us a review on whatever your podcast platform of choice is. We'll take anything we can get. But again, a huge, huge thank you to everybody for listening to this show. I am blown away that anybody listens to this. So again, I well and truly mean this. Thank you so much for listening.